other type of vaccines is the recombinant vector vaccines. Here what we actually do is, with again the help of rDNA technology, we are going to isolate a gene that expresses the antigen. Then that gene is to be introduced into a live attenuated organism. Hope you are clear here. Earlier in recombinant antigen vaccines also we have isolated a gene that expresses the surface antigen. Here also with the help of rDNA technology, we are going to isolate a gene that codes for the antigen, and that gene is to be introduced into a live attenuated organism. Here that organism could be bacteria or virus. It will be in a live form, but it will be attenuated. That means its virulence is decreased, right? And here these live attenuated organisms will act as a vectors. Here we are going to make a multiple copies of that gene which express the antigen. Right. So if we make a multiple copies of a gene, when each gene express will get a sufficient quantity of that antigen, right? So in order to make a huge quantity of that antigen, here we are going to first isolate the gene, and then it should be introduced into a live attenuated organism, whether it could be a bacteria or a virus. Then it should be introduced into a host where it undergoes replication. See here the organism in a live form, so it is capable of replicating in a host, but it is not capable of causing the infection because we have already attenuated the organism, and we are introducing the gene that codes for the antigen into this live attenuated organisms which will act as a vectors. Once we introduce into the host, what happens? When it undergoes the replication, we are going to get the sufficient quantity of that antigen which can be utilized as a vaccine. So these are the some of the examples of the strains which can be used as a vectors here in this technology. So these are the viral strains where we can use adenovirus, poliovirus and canary pox virus as a vectors. And remember, these are live viruses but attenuated viruses. Whereas we can also use bacterial strains like Salmonella, E. coli and Mycobacterium bovis as vectors. Now let's discuss about the virus carrier vaccine. Just now I told you either virus or bacteria in a live form, that too in attenuated form, can be used as a vectors. Now let's see, by using a virus, how can we prepare a vaccine? Best example is Vaccinia virus. Since this virus carries a complex genome, we can utilize this virus to carry several foreign genes. But remember here, this Vaccinia virus is an attenuated virus. That is, its virulence is decreased, and within its genome, we are going to replace some genes with the foreign genes, right? And moreover, it will still have a capability to replicate within the host, but it is not capable of causing the infection. What happens when we insert the foreign genes into a Vaccinia virus? For example, this is a Vaccinia virus, okay? It have A, B, C, D and E genes, right? And here we are going to insert few more genes into the genome of a virus. For example, gene 1 and gene 2. These are the foreign genes, okay? Now this genetically engineered Vaccinia virus which carries the foreign genes, when these genes are expressed, it gives rise to a product, right? So here we are going to introduce a gene that codes for an antigen. So when this genetically engineered Vaccinia virus express those foreign genes, they can induce immunity in the host. This genetically engineered Vaccinia virus is made to express these inserted foreign genes. So when these foreign genes are expressed, what happens? They will serve as an immunogen when they are introduced into an host. Let's see in detail how this vaccine is prepared. Let's see how to produce a Vaccinia vector vaccine. Here if you look into the picture, so the first step is we need to choose a plasmid. And this plasmid should have a promoter site and it should have a restriction enzyme site, that is we call it as a cleavage site, and moreover it should have a marker gene. See, the importance of the marker gene is For example, if this is a plasmid and if it have a marker gene of ampicillin resistance, that means due to the presence of this gene, this is resistant to ampicillin. Once we introduce the foreign gene in this position, for example, see here, this is the marker gene, okay, and we are going to introduce a foreign gene over here, that is within this marker gene site. So what happens? Initially this plasmid showed resistance to ampicillin, but due to the incorporation of the foreign gene, there will be a change in the sequence here, right? So initially this gene codes for the ampicillin resistance, but once you introduce the foreign gene, what happens here? The sequence will be changed, right? It is no longer capable of showing resistance to ampicillin. So after the introduction of a foreign gene, it becomes ampicillin sensitive. So we can make out that the gene has incorporated into a correct place. Even if after the process of recombination, if it still exhibits resistance to ampicillin, what does it mean? The gene has incorporated somewhere else. It has not incorporated exactly into this position, or the incorporation has not taken place. So to identify that whether the recombination has taken place or not, these marker genes will be useful. So we need to choose a plasmid with a marker gene along with the promoter site and also with the restriction site, because we want to open the plasmid, right? If it is not opened, how can I introduce the foreign gene into this plasmid? So for that reason, it should have a cleavage sites where we are going to treat this plasmid with the restriction enzymes that will cut open the plasmid, and we are going to introduce foreign gene into it, making a recombinant DNA molecule. See, this plasmid is one gene, and from the other source, that is from the virus or the bacteria, we are going to isolate the gene, and those foreign genes are again incorporated into a plasmid. So here we are combining two set of genes. So we are making a recombinant DNA molecule, and along with the plasmid you have to select the genes that code for the antigen. So here we have chosen the genes from the three different viruses, that is one from the hepatitis B virus, one from the herpes simplex virus, and the other from the influenza virus. So these are the genes that codes for the antigens, right? And you have also chosen the plasmid. Now what you are going to do? You have to make a recombinant DNA molecule by inserting these foreign genes into a plasmid. Here the plasmid will act as a cloning vehicle where we are going to make multiple copies of these genes. Okay, see here, these are the three genes which got incorporated here. So with the help of restriction enzymes and with the help of enzyme ligases, first we have opened the plasmid, and then we have introduced these foreign genes into a plasmid, and then we have ligated with the help of the enzyme ligase, making a recombinant DNA molecule. See, after the cleavage and the ligation, again here we are going to use vaccinia virus. This is a live attenuated virus, because here the vaccinia virus is used as a vector in the preparation of a vaccine. Once you are ready with this live attenuated virus and the recombinant plasmid DNA molecule, you are going to infect the vaccinia virus and the recombinant DNA molecule to the tissue culture cells. This step is called as transfection. After this step of transfection, what you are going to do? You have to select the homologous recombinants. Here we need only recombinants. Non-recombinants are of no use here in this procedure. So we need to specifically select the homologous recombinants. Recombinants here where they are carrying all the three genes of these viruses. If you carefully observe here, see, this is the vaccinia virus which is used as a vector, and it is carrying all the three foreign genes that we have incorporated earlier. That is for hepatitis B virus, herpes simplex virus, and also for the influenza. So this is the recombinant vaccinia vector which can be utilized as a vaccine, which will induce immune response against all the three pathogens. This is how we prepare vector vaccines with the help of rDNA technology. Now let's look into the another type of vaccines, that is nucleic acid vaccines. Under this category we have again two type of vaccines, that is DNA vaccines and RNA vaccines. Coming to the DNA vaccines, here what we actually do is we are going to use a plasmid DNA. Along with that, we are going to introduce a foreign gene that is going to express the antigen. For suppose this is the plasmid, right? And with the help of restriction enzymes, we are going to cut the plasmid, and then we are going to introduce a foreign gene which codes for the antigen. Okay, so now it is a recombinant DNA molecule. This is the plasmid DNA and this is the foreign gene, and this gene is going to express the antigen. Okay, with the help of ligase enzyme we are going to join this foreign gene with the plasmid DNA, and this is the foreign gene which is going to code for a viral antigen. Now we made a recombinant DNA molecule, and this recombinant DNA molecule is introduced into a muzzle of a recipient. Once we introduce this recombinant DNA molecule into muzzle of a recipient, this DNA will be taken up by the muzzle and it will express the antigen. DNA vaccines can induce both humoral mediated immunity and also cell mediated immunity. Hope you are clear here. In this DNA vaccines, what we do is we make a recombinant DNA molecule. For that reason, we use a plasmid DNA where we are going to insert a foreign gene that codes for the viral antigen, and the muscle cell which take up this DNA will express the antigen. So by use of this DNA vaccines, we are going to induce both the humoral mediated immunity and the cell mediated immunity. And of course, with the advancements in the technology, again with the help of rDNA technology, we can prepare this DNA vaccines, or we can inject the DNA into a host with the help of electroporation or with the help of a gene gun method. Especially here, we are going to use a microscopic gold beads that are coated with the DNA. And when you apply high velocity, that is with the help of a gene gun method, that DNA will be transferred into a host. So far no DNA vaccines were licensed, but still the clinical trials were going on, and now work is going on with the Zika virus. Coming to the RNA vaccines, here we use mRNA. mRNA stands for messenger RNA, and remember these RNA vaccines will not combine with the host DNA, and here we are going to introduce the mRNA into a host. This mRNA is embedded in a lipid membrane, and this lipid membrane will protect the mRNA, and at the same time it will help the mRNA to reach inside the cell. With the help of this lipid membrane, once the mRNA enters into the cell, what does this mRNA will do? It will utilize all the machinery that is present in the cell, and it will undergo the process of translation. We all know the process of translation, right? The synthesis of protein from mRNA is called as translation. So here in this type of RNA vaccines, what we are doing? We are going to introduce the mRNA with the help of a lipid membrane. So this mRNA, after it enters into a cell, utilizing all the machinery that is present in the cell, it will undergo the process of translation, giving rise to a protein, where the protein which is antigenic in nature will be expressed, and this antigen will induce the immune response. And remember one more important point here. We are saying that we are using mRNA here in this RNA vaccines, right? And the lifespan of this mRNA is very short. It lasts for only few days, but that is sufficient to induce the immune response. Later this mRNA will be naturally broken down and it will be eliminated out from the body. These two are the best examples for the RNA vaccines, and these are still under the clinical trials. Those are Pfizer BioNTech and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. Both these vaccines are the RNA vaccines which are still under clinical trials. This is all about the types of vaccines. Hope you are clear with the topic, and soon I'll come up with the next video. Thank you so much.